All right, you landed an interview for a tobacco products distribution manager role. Congrats. But now you got to prep. We're diving into RoleCatcher's resources, career guides, interview guides, even AI to help you crush it.
We'll break down the usual questions, give you strategies, and yeah, even look at how RoleCatcher's AI can make your answers really hit home.
Perfect. Let's unpack this. First, though, what does a tobacco products distribution manager actually do?
Think logistics, coordinating everyone from suppliers to the shops, selling those products, making sure everything's running smooth and everyone's following all the regulations too. This is a big role, so being ready is essential.
Yeah, the RoleCatcher guide really emphasizes organization, analysis, and knowing the ins and outs of the industry. We'll link to the full guide down below, but let's get into those interview questions. RoleCatcher has 10 common ones for this role, ready to dive in.
Absolutely. Let's start with a classic. Can you describe your experience in the tobacco products industry?
They're definitely seeing how familiar you are with this world. What's the best way to approach this one?
Don't just list your past jobs, like a shopping list. Instead, connect those experiences to the skills this role needs. Did you manage inventory before? Negotiated contracts with suppliers? Analyze those market trends. That's what they're looking for.
So instead of just saying, I was a sales rep, you might say, as a sales rep, I learned a lot about what retailers need, about how the market works. That's going to be key for managing distribution, right?
Bingo. You're showing them you get the bigger picture and how your background is valuable to them. Now, imagine they follow up with, what were some of the challenges you faced in your previous role and how did you overcome them?
Oh, that's a good one. They want to see problem solving and how resilient you are.
Exactly. Pick an example showing relevant skills, like maybe there was a supply chain problem or you implemented a new inventory system. Be specific. What did you do and what good came out of it?
All right, on to question number 2. How would you describe your management style?
This is your chance to show off your leadership. Are you collaborative? Do you empower your team? Maybe you're all about setting expectations clearly and giving feedback. Whatever it is, give them solid examples.
Instead of just saying, I'm a great motivator, you might say, I like building a culture of open communication and, collaboration. In my last role, I started weekly team meetings. We'd talk about challenges, brainstorm solutions, and celebrate our wins together.
Perfect. You're painting a picture of your style in action. Way better than just using buzzwords. They might even ask, can you tell me about a time you had to motivate your team to achieve a difficult goal?
That's where you'd share a specific story about, like hitting a tough sales target or completing a challenging project. Show them how you inspired and guided your team. Question 3, all about regulations. How do you stay up to date with industry regulations and changes?
Now, this is crucial in this industry. Lots of regulations. Gotta show you're committed to staying informed, mention publications you read, conferences you attend, or professional groups you're in, that kind of thing.
So instead of simply saying, I read industry news, you could say, I subscribe to Tobacco Reporter magazine and always attend conferences like the Global Tobacco and Nicotine Forum. Stay ahead of the curve.
Got it. Shows you're proactive and dedicated to compliance. They might ask, can you give an example of a recent regulatory change that impacted your work and how you adapted to it?
That's where you'd pull out your knowledge of specific regulations, right? Like the TAPEC Act. How did you make changes to keep the company compliant? Showing you know the rules and you act on them. All right, question number 4. Can you describe your experience managing inventory and logistics?
This is core stuff for the job. Share real examples of how you've handled inventory levels, optimized the warehouse, and coordinated transportation. Did you implement any software to help things run better? Put numbers to your successes if you can.
Instead of just saying I managed inventory, you could say, in my previous role, I put in a new warehouse management system. It cut stockouts by 15%, and we were 10% faster at fulfilling orders.
Now we're talking. Results that grab their attention. A follow-up might be, what are some key challenges in managing inventory, specifically for tobacco products?
You demonstrate your knowledge of the unique parts of this industry then, right? Age verification stuff, excise taxes, how sensitive the products themselves are. You're not just any logistics pro, you're a tobacco industry expert. RoleCatcher's question number 5 is a little more strategic. Can you describe a time when you had to develop and implement a new distribution strategy?
Time to shine as a problem solver and innovator. Walk them through a situation you saw the need for a new strategy, outline the steps, what challenges popped up, and the final result. Did you find a new market? Streamline a delivery route? Be specific and quantify the results.
For instance, you could say, I noticed our delivery routes were really inefficient. higher costs, longer delivery times. So I brought in route optimization software, and we cut our mileage by 20%, saving the company $10,000 per year.
Love it. You analyzed the situation, came up with a solution, and made it happen. They might even ask, what risks did you consider when you implemented this new strategy, and how did you handle them?
Great chance to talk about your risk assessment skills, how you foresee problems before they happen. All right, moving on to question number 6. How do you ensure that your team meets sales targets?
Time to show off your leadership and how you motivate people. Do you set realistic targets? Track progress carefully. Give support and coaching. Share what you've actually done to boost performance.
So instead of I motivate my team, you could say, I believe in setting clear, achievable goals, giving regular feedback, and recognizing those top performers. Like in my last role, I started a sales incentive program bonuses and recognition for the top folks. Our sales jumped 10%.
Now that's an example, not just managing. You're leading and driving results. Might even get asked, how do you handle it when someone on your team just isn't performing well?
Time to talk about performance management then, huh? Your approach to giving constructive feedback, finding areas for improvement, and making plans for individual development. You care about your team's success, and you're invested in their growth. Question number 7 brings us back to compliance. How do you ensure that your team complies with industry regulations?
Huge deal in this industry, right? Show them you're proactive about compliance, regular training, a system to monitor and make sure everyone follows the rules. Share real examples of how you build that culture of compliance in your teams.
Instead of just saying, I make sure everyone follows the rules, you could say, I started a mandatory compliance training program right when someone's hired. And we do regular refreshers too, so everyone's up to date. I also made a system for tracking and documenting everything so we have a clean audit trail.
Excellent. A total approach to compliance, more than checking boxes, a possible follow-up. Tell me of at a specific time when you had to deal with a compliance issue on your team.
And that's where you'd share that story. How you spotted a potential problem, investigated it, and took action. Shows your commitment to doing things ethically, and that you can enforce those standards. Onward to question 8. Can you describe your experience managing supplier relationships?
This one's about building and keeping those strong relationships, win-win situations. What's your style of communication, negotiation, and handling conflict? Give examples of how you've worked with suppliers, not against them, to reach shared goals.
Instead of just, I have good relationships with suppliers, you could say, I believe in being open and transparent with them. We schedule regular meetings to talk about performance, air any concerns, and explore ways to collaborate. For example, I worked with one of our key suppliers to set up a just-in-time inventory system, which cut our storage costs and actually made their production more efficient too.
Boom, that's strategic supplier management, not just placing orders. They might ask, tell me about a time you had to negotiate a tough contract with a supplier.
There it is, the chance to showcase your negotiation skills, how you find common ground, build agreement, and reach a deal that benefits both sides. Okay, on to question 9, diving into conflict management. How do you manage conflicts within your team?
Conflict is going to happen, right? So it's important to show you handle it well. Are you a good listener? Can you fairly mediate? Share specific times you've successfully resolved conflicts and fostered a positive work environment.
Instead of just saying, I'm good at resolving conflicts, you could say, I like to address conflicts directly and respectfully. Everyone's got to communicate openly, and I try to listen actively so I understand everyone's point of view. Once, I had to mediate a conflict between 2 team members who had different ideas about how to do a project. We talked it out, focused on finding common ground, and came up with a solution that everyone felt good about.
Nice. That's constructive conflict resolution in action. A follow-up could be, what strategies do you use to keep conflicts from getting bigger in the first place?
Talking about being proactive then. Setting clear expectations, building a culture where people can speak openly, and providing those regular opportunities for feedback and dialogue. And finally, we've hit the last question on RoleCatcher's list. Can you describe your experience managing a budget?
Here's where you show your financial smarts and responsibility. Have you created and managed budgets before? What tools and systems did you use? Did you find ways to save money or make things more efficient?
Instead of just saying, I've managed budgets before, you could say, in my last role, I was responsible for a $1 million annual budget. I used spreadsheets and financial reporting tools to keep track of expenses, see where we were over or under budget, and make decisions based on data to make sure we stayed on track. I also found ways to save money, like negotiating better prices with suppliers and improving processes to cut down on waste.
There you go. Clear understanding of budgeting and managing money well. They might ask, how do you decide what to spend money on when resources are limited?
That's when you talk about how you decide where the money goes. You've got to align spending with strategic goals, assess risks and opportunities, and, make the tough calls sometimes. We've gone through all 10 questions from RoleCatcher's list. But don't forget, they have that secret weapon, AI tools to help you stand out. What's the scoop on that?
It's great. Their AI can look at a job description, compare it to your resume, and find skills gaps you might not even realize you have. That way, you can focus your resume and interview answers better.
So instead of just crossing your fingers and hoping you have the right skills, you use AI to make sure you're highlighting what this particular employer is looking for. It's like having a personal career coach, but in your pocket.
How does the AI help with those answers, though? It's not writing them for you, right?
Actually, it's pretty amazing. Let's say you're working on your answer to, how do you stay up to date on industry regulations? You can type it into RoleCatcher, and their AI will analyze it. It compares your answer to a giant database of answers that have worked.
So, like, it knows what's worked for other people who had similar interviews? Exactly. It can tell you if you're being too vague, not giving enough specific examples, or even if your tone is off.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like having a whole bunch of experts giving you personalized feedback. You're not just guessing anymore. You're crafting answers that have a better chance of landing well.
Right on. And the feedback is tailored to the specific requirements of the tobacco products distribution manager role. You're getting insights that are directly relevant to the job you want.
Okay, I'm definitely interested in this AI feature, but let's not forget the bigger picture. RoleCatcher has that detailed career guide for tobacco products distribution managers. What are some key takeaways about this career path?
What's interesting is how much they emphasize being adaptable. This industry changes all the time, new regulations pop up, consumer preferences shift, and technology keeps advancing.
So it's not enough to just know how things work now. You've got to anticipate those changes and be ready to adapt. They're looking for someone who can roll with the punches and is always learning.
Absolutely. The guide talks about how important it is to stay updated on industry trends, look for professional development opportunities, and be open to new ideas.
Sounds like it's not the job for someone who wants to do the same thing day after day, huh?
Yeah.
You got to be energized by challenges and excited to learn.
For sure. The guide also talks about building strong relationships both within your team and outside with suppliers, retailers, and everyone else involved.
So it's not just logistics and numbers. It's about people skills, communication, and working together effectively.
Exactly. A successful tobacco products distribution manager has got to be a strong leader, motivate their team, build consensus, and handle those complex relationships. That's where those softer skills are really important.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, something everyone's curious about.
Yeah.
Salary. What does the guide say about earning potential in this field?
Well, it depends on your experience, where you are, the size of the company, stuff like that. But generally, it says tobacco products distribution managers can make a good living, especially as you get more experience and move up within a company.
So it's not just a job, it's a career with room to grow and be financially stable. Let's be real, every industry has its pros and cons. What does the guide highlight about the good and bad of working in this field?
On the plus side, it's fast-paced, always changing, and there's plenty of room to advance. You're always solving problems, making decisions, and seeing the impact of your work.
If you thrive on challenge and responsibility, this might be a good fit. What about the downsides? The guide mentions some cons, right?
It does. One could be the long hours, especially as a manager. You're overseeing a team and making sure everything runs smoothly.
So not your typical 9 to 5 where you can just shut off and forget about work. Got to be okay with some pressure and responsibility.
You got it. But for some people, those challenges are motivating and rewarding. It's about finding a career that fits your personality, your skills, and what you value.
That's such a great point. RoleCatcher's Guide gives a really good overview of this career. We'll definitely put a link in the show notes so everyone can check it out.
It's worth a look, even beyond this specific interview.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. The role itself, those tricky interview questions, and even how RoleCatcher's AI can give you an edge. But we've got even more to uncover, so stick with us for part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll explore
the future of tobacco distribution itself. We'll look at some industry trends, career progression, and even how RoleCatcher can help you manage your whole career journey.
Awesome. Let's dive in. We talked about how important it is to be adaptable in this industry. What are some specific trends shaping the future of tobacco distribution?
One big one is e-commerce. More and more sales are happening online. And that ties into the PECT Act, with those tighter regulations for online tobacco sellers.
So a tobacco products distribution manager needs to be comfortable with tech and understand all those details of online distribution, age verification, payment stuff, shipping regulations, the whole nine yards.
You got it. And they need to be aware of those alternative nicotine products too, like vaping devices and heated tobacco. They're shaking up the traditional market, so distributors got to adapt.
That makes me think about inventory management. How's that changing with all these new products?
It's definitely getting more complex. Distributors are dealing with a bigger range of products, each with their own storage needs, shelf life, and all those regulations. Plus, they got to predict demand accurately and adjust those inventory levels as they go.
So those analytical skills and the ability to stay ahead of the curve are more important than ever. What about the supply chain itself? How's that changing?
Globalization and more complicated supply chains are having a big impact. Distributors need to source products from all over the world, manage shipping logistics across borders, and deal with potential hiccups like trade wars or even natural disasters.
Sounds like a tobacco products distribution manager has to be a master juggler, keeping all those balls in the air while staying laser focused on compliance and efficiency.
That's a great way to put it. And they're managing a team too, so those leadership and communication skills are essential.
Speaking of teams, let's talk about career progression. RoleCatcher's Guide maps out the path from starting as a distribution assistant all the way up to becoming the distribution manager. Helpful to see the big picture, especially if you're just starting out. Can you walk us through that journey?
Sure. It usually starts with that entry-level distribution assistant role. You'd be helping with inventory, packing, and labeling, learning how the warehouse runs.
So paying attention to detail, being organized, and eager to learn are key at this stage, like a boot camp for the industry.
Exactly. Then you might move up to warehouse supervisor. You'd be overseeing a small team, making sure everyone's following safety rules, managing inventory levels, and even starting to make processes better.
Leadership starts to matter more here, right? You're not just doing the work, you're guiding others.
You got it. From there, maybe a distribution coordinator role. Coordinating transportation, working with the sales folks, keeping an eye on delivery performance, and analyzing all that distribution data.
Things are getting more strategic and analytical now. You're thinking about how those products are moving from point A to point B, the whole picture.
And finally, you'd reach that distribution manager level, developing the whole distribution strategy, managing budgets, working with sales and marketing, and leading a team of coordinators and supervisors.
Like the culmination of all those experiences and skills you built along the way. You deeply understand the industry, you're a strong leader, and you've proven you can get results. But it's not just about reaching the top, is it? It's about constantly growing and developing throughout your career.
You're absolutely right, and that's where RoleCatcher really shines. Their platform isn't just for prepping for this one interview, it's a whole system for your career development.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this career development side.
Okay, imagine you've been a distribution manager for a few years, and you're ready for something new. Maybe you want to specialize in a particular area, like e-commerce logistics or international distribution, or maybe you're thinking about switching companies.
Okay, so how does RoleCatcher help in those situations?
They have this tool called Career Compass. It analyzes your skills, your experience, and your career goals. Then it suggests paths you might not have even considered.
So it's like a personalized roadmap for your career, guiding you towards new opportunities and helping you plan your next moves.
Exactly. It can even show you relevant job openings, training programs, and even connect you with professional networks.
That's really cool. Like having a career counselor, but right there in your pocket, helping you make those career transitions and strategic decisions. But it's not just about finding new jobs, is it? It's also about always learning and developing your skills.
Right. RoleCatcher has resources for that too. Online courses, webinars, stuff like that. It helps you stay on top of industry trends, learn new skills, and move your career forward.
So you're not just sitting around waiting for opportunities. You're actively investing in yourself and positioning yourself for success.
Exactly. And here's another cool thing. Employers can actually search for candidates on RoleCatcher based on skills and experience. So if you've been building your profile, showing off your expertise and what you've accomplished, the right opportunity might find you.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. It's like flipping the script on the job search. Instead of chasing jobs, the jobs chase you.
It's all about being proactive, putting yourself out there, and showing your value. And RoleCatcher gives you the tools to do just that.
Okay, I'm super impressed with RoleCatcher. It's not just interview prep, it's a whole career development platform. But let's go back to that interview for a minute. We talked about those 10 common questions and how RoleCatcher's AI can help you tailor your answers. Any general tips for acing a tobacco products distribution manager interview, no matter what they ask?
Absolutely. First, research the company really well. What are their products, their distribution network, their place in the market? It shows you're really interested and you've prepared.
It's like going to a dinner party and actually knowing something about the host. Makes a good first impression. It shows you care.
Exactly. Second, practice your answers out loud. Might feel weird at first, but it'll help you get your delivery smoother and avoid rambling in the actual interview.
I know when I practice out loud, I realize how much I say, um, it helps polish things up.
We all do it. Third, have some good questions ready to ask the interviewer. It shows you're curious and involved. Plus, you get to learn more about the company and the role.
Like what kind of questions? Give us some examples.
You could ask about their biggest distribution challenges, what their plans for growth are, or even what they personally enjoy about working there.
Those are great. It's not just a one-sided grilling anymore. It's a conversation. And it shows you're not just thinking about getting the job, but whether it's the right fit for you.
Exactly. And last but not least, be yourself. Be genuine, let your personality show, be enthusiastic, and let them see your passion for this role.
That's such good advice. They don't want a robot who just spits out perfect answers. They want someone who'd be a good fit to the team, someone they can actually see themselves working with.
You said it. So, to sum up, you've got RoleCatcher's resources, including those cool AI tools to get you ready for those tough questions. Plus, you've got these general interview tips to boost your confidence and make a great impression. But there's one more super important element.
The element of surprise. Okay, now I'm really curious. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
It's all about the mindset you bring into that interview room.
Mindset, huh? Okay, I'm listening. Tell me more.
Think of it as like a three-part combo: confident, curious, and adaptable.
Ooh, I like that. Break it down for me.
Confident means walking in there knowing you've got the skills and experience. You did your research, you practiced, you know what you're worth.
No wallflower here. You're showing them you're ready to step up.
Exactly. Curious means you see the interview as a chance to learn something too. You're not just there to answer their questions. You're there to gather info, ask good questions, really understand the company and the role.
It's a two-way street then. You're both figuring out if it's a good fit.
Right. And then adaptable. That means being ready to think on your feet, handle those curveball questions or unexpected situations. This industry's always changing. Got to show them you can roll with it and handle uncertainty.
So you're not just qualified for the job today, but you've got the potential to grow with the company as things change.
Exactly. If you can nail that confident, curious, and adaptable mindset, you won't just ace the interview, you'll be set up for success in this industry long term.
That's a great takeaway. So as we wrap up this deep dive, a few key things for our listeners to remember. We covered a lot: the role, those tough interview questions, and how RoleCatcher can be your secret weapon throughout your career. What's the most important thing you want them to take away from all this?
Remember that you are in the driver's seat of your career. You get to choose your path, develop those skills, and build a career in this industry that's fulfilling and successful. Use the resources we talked about, believe in yourself, and don't be afraid to go after what you want.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And hey, RoleCatcher's there every step of the way. From interview prep to figuring out your career path and beyond. We'll link to everything in the show notes so you can check it out. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of tobacco products distribution. We know you've got what it takes.